Fear. It's a word we all know. But what if I told you that fear, as most people experience it, isn't even real? It's not a monster hiding under your bed or a force outside of you. Fear is a creation. It's born in the mind from a series of thoughts we choose to believe. Thoughts we rehearse so often, they feel real. But here's the truth. Fear is nothing more than a misuse of your imagination. It's your own mind playing a loop of what-if, scenarios, negative ones, over and over again. You weren't born with fear. Think about it. A baby doesn't fear crawling, falling, touching new things, or exploring the unknown. The only two fears we're born with are the fear of loud noises and the fear of falling. Every other fear, yes, every single one, has been learned. That means it can be unlearned too. We are programmed from a young age, by our parents, our culture, our teachers, to be cautious, to play it safe, to avoid risk. And somewhere along the way, that caution grows into anxiety, into hesitation, into paralysis, into fear. We start to doubt ourselves. We start asking, what if I fail? What will they think? What if I'm not good enough? These questions create imaginary walls around our potential. But here's the real twist. Fear doesn't live in the present moment. It lives in the future. It's always about what might happen. Fear is a future-based illusion, and yet we often let it control our present decisions. We hold back on opportunities. We shrink ourselves to avoid judgment. We silence our dreams just to stay in our comfort zone. Bob Proctor said, "Fear is a mental monster you've created, and it will disappear if you face it." The moment you recognize fear for what it is, a false story playing in your mind, you begin to reclaim your power. You begin to separate truth from illusion. You stop giving fear your energy, your belief, your time. So how do you start eliminating fear from your life? You start by becoming aware of it. Don't run from it. Don't deny it. Look it in the eye and ask yourself, is this fear based on fact, or just a story I've been telling myself? 9 times out of 10, it's just a story, a distorted perception, not reality. Once you understand that fear is simply a signal, not a sentence, it becomes manageable. It becomes a teacher. Every time fear shows up, it's pointing you toward growth. It's saying, here's where you're stuck. Now let's break through. And you can break through. You were never meant to live a life governed by fear. You were meant to lead, to grow, to rise. Because fear is not who you are, it's just who you've learned to be. You see, once we understand what fear is, a mental program, a thought we've practiced, then the next step is simple but powerful. Replace that fear with knowledge. Bob Proctor often said, "The unknown causes fear. Knowledge eliminates it." Think about that for a second. We don't fear the thing itself, we fear what we don't know about it. We fear the dark not because of what's there, but because we can't see what's there. Fear is rooted in ignorance, and the antidote to ignorance, knowledge. Let me give you a simple example. Imagine standing at the edge of a diving board for the first time. You look down, and your heart starts racing. Your mind begins to fill with doubts. What if I belly flop? What if I drown? What if I get hurt? That's fear. But then you learn. You learn how to jump properly, how deep the water is, how to move your body in the air. You talk to a coach, you study, you prepare, and suddenly you understand. The more you know, the less scary it becomes, and the fear begins to fade. Why? Because knowledge has entered the space where ignorance used to live. This principle applies to every area of life. Afraid of public speaking? Learn the structure of great speeches. Practice breathing techniques. Study the psychology of stage presence. The more you know, the stronger you feel. Afraid of starting a business? Learn how successful entrepreneurs failed before they succeeded. Learn the systems, the models, the mindsets. And what happens? The fear starts to shrink. and your confidence begins to grow. Fear feeds on what you don't know. But knowledge is the light that makes fear vanish, and not just academic knowledge. I'm talking about self-knowledge. Know who you are. Know your gifts, your goals, your values. Because when you truly know yourself, fear doesn't stand a chance. It has no place to hide in a mind that is aware, informed, and focused. Now here's where most people get stuck. They feel fear and think it means stop. But fear is not a stop sign. It's a signal that there's something you haven't learned yet. It's a call to expand your mind. So don't let fear become your excuse. Let it be your motivation to study more, understand more, grow more. In fact, make learning your weapon. Feed your mind with books, audio, mentors, and experiences that challenge you. Learn from your past, learn from your environment, and learn from your failures. Because the moment you gain insight, you gain power. You stop being a victim of fear and start becoming a master of your mind. Knowledge gives you options. It gives you clarity. It lets you see the full picture instead of just a scary corner of it. And the more knowledge you acquire, the easier it becomes to shift your thinking, shift your emotions, and shift your results. So if fear is holding you back right now, whatever kind of fear it is, ask yourself, what do I need to learn about this? What do I not yet understand? Then go find that knowledge, study it, soak it in, apply it. Because once you truly understand something, fear has nowhere to live. Now, once you begin to replace fear with knowledge, something even more powerful starts to happen. You begin to shift your paradigm. Now, what is a paradigm? It's a mental program. It's a set of habits, beliefs, and thought patterns that control your behavior automatically. Most people don't even realize it, but they're not living according to what they want. They're living according to what they've been programmed to believe is possible. And that programming often includes fear, doubt, and limitation. From the moment you were born, your mind was wide open like fertile soil. And everything that was said around you, what you saw, what you heard, what you experienced, started to plant seeds. Maybe someone told you, don't take risks, be careful, that's not realistic, or you're not good enough. You didn't question it, you just absorbed it. Over time, those seeds grew into a paradigm, and that paradigm now runs your life without you even being aware of it. That's why so many people feel stuck. They want to be confident. They want to chase their dreams. But deep down, there's an inner voice that says, what if I fail? What if they judge me? What if I'm not ready? That voice isn't you. That voice is your paradigm, the one you inherited, not the one you chose. Here's the good news. Just like you were programmed, you can reprogram yourself. You can shift your paradigm, and the first step is becoming aware that your thoughts are not facts. They're habits. Most of the fears you feel are not based on truth. They're based on conditioned patterns that you've repeated over and over. You didn't choose those patterns consciously, but now you have the power to replace them. So how do you do that? You start by feeding your mind new ideas, positive, empowering ideas repeatedly. You use affirmations. You visualize the person you want to become. You surround yourself with people who challenge your old beliefs. And above all, you take action that contradicts your fears. Because every time you act in a way your old paradigm wouldn't allow, you weaken its hold on you. Repetition is key. Just like fear was programmed into you through repetition, courage and belief can be programmed the same way. You have to say it until you believe it. You have to visualize it until it feels real. You have to do it until the old patterns fall apart. And yes, it takes time. But every time you challenge a limiting belief, every time you step out of your comfort zone, you are literally rewiring your mind. You are forming a new paradigm, one where fear doesn't lead, but follows. One where your potential isn't capped by the past, but fueled by the future. Fear doesn't live in a strong paradigm. It can't, because a strong paradigm is built on clarity, purpose, and belief in self. And once your paradigm shifts, you don't just think differently, you live differently, you make decisions faster. You take bigger risks, you trust yourself more, you move from survival to creation. So if fear is still holding you back, it's time to ask, what belief is feeding this fear, and is it even mine? Because the truth is, you have the power to rewrite your programming and choose a new mental operating system, one that empowers you, not one that limits you. When you've started shifting your paradigm, changing the beliefs and patterns that control your life, the next step is to focus. But not just any kind of focus. You have to focus on your goals, not on your doubts. Here's the thing. Most people don't even realize how much of their energy is being drained by doubt. They wake up thinking about what might go wrong. They imagine all the ways they could fail, all the judgments they might face, all the discomfort that comes with change. That doubt becomes their dominant vibration, and where your attention goes, energy flows. So guess what grows stronger? The fear, the hesitation, the paralysis, but it doesn't have to be that way. You can flip the switch. You can choose to direct that energy towards something that fuels you, your goals. Because when your vision becomes stronger than your fear, something powerful happens. You stop focusing on what you're afraid of and start focusing on what you want. That's when movement begins. You see, fear and doubt thrive in a mind that lacks direction. When your goal is vague, when it's just a wish or a maybe, your mind will wander back to what's familiar, fees wants. But when your goal is clear, when it's sharp and exciting and emotionally charged, then it becomes a magnet. It pulls you forward, so ask yourself, what do I really want? Not what's realistic, not what's safe. What do I truly desire? Because clarity kills fear. The more vivid your vision, the less room there is for doubt to grow. Bob Proctor used to say, set a goal that makes you want to jump out of bed in the morning. That kind of goal does something to your vibration. It gives you focus. It gives you power. It silences that voice of fear because your mind is now filled with something bigger than your worry, your purpose. And this is key. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just need the next step. One action, aligned with your vision, is more powerful than hours of thinking about what could go wrong. Doubt says, what if it doesn't work? Faith says, what if it does? Which voice are you feeding? Start small if you have to. Write down your goals every day. Read them, speak them, see them. Let them become more real than your fear. Let them become the lens you see everything through. Because when you're focused on your goal, your fear starts to lose its grip. Your mind begins to organize around what you want, not what you're trying to avoid. It's also important to protect your focus. Don't let other people's doubts become your reality. Most people live small because they've listened to someone else's fear. Guard your vision. Feed it with inspiration, knowledge, action, and belief. And every time doubt whispers, you answer it with clarity. This is where I'm going. This is who I'm becoming. Because when your focus is locked on your goal, fear becomes background noise. It's still there, but it no longer drives you. Your vision takes the wheel. Your purpose becomes louder than your past. And that's when real transformation begins. Fear can only survive when you don't move. When you hesitate, when you pause, when you overthink, that's when fear grows. But the moment you take action, everything changes, because action is the antidote to fear. Think about all the times you were afraid to do something. Maybe it was making a phone call, starting a conversation, applying for a job, or speaking on stage. The fear felt big before the action. But the moment you stepped forward, even just a little, what happened? The fear started shrinking. Why? Because fear is powerless in the face of movement. When you move, you signal to your mind that you're in control now, not the fear. You see, fear doesn't disappear by thinking about it. It doesn't go away just because you learn about it or understand it. Those things are important, but without action, they're incomplete. Knowledge is power only when it's applied. You can study confidence, study courage, repeat affirmations, visualize your future, but until you take that uncomfortable step, fear still has a seat at your table. Bob Proctor said it best, "Do the thing you fear, and the death of fear is certain." You don't need to feel ready. You don't need to feel fearless. You just need to move, even if your hands shake, even if your voice trembles, even if your mind screams stop. Because on the other side of that action is your freedom, and you don't need to take massive leaps overnight. Small steps matter. In fact, it's the small, consistent actions in spite of fear that build the strongest confidence. Every time you act when you're afraid, you send a message to your subconscious mind, "I'm not the same person anymore." And that message begins to rewrite the story. Let's say you're afraid of speaking in public. You don't have to book a TED talk tomorrow. Start by speaking up in a meeting, make a video for yourself, join a small group, take one step, then another, and with each one, your fear starts to fade because your mind is seeing evidence that you can do it. This is how courage is built. It's not something you're born with. It's something you practice, and like any muscle, the more you use it, the stronger it gets. The more you act in the presence of fear, the less control fear has over your life. Fear doesn't stop you. Inaction stops you, and inaction keeps fear alive. So you have to decide, am I going to wait until I feel fearless, or am I going to act in spite of how I feel? The truth is, courage isn't about not feeling fear. It's about moving forward anyway. It's saying, yes, I'm afraid, but my purpose is bigger. My dream is louder. My goals matter more than my comfort zone. When you move, you change your state. You shift your energy. You break the cycle. You go from being frozen by fear to being fueled by faith. But because you forfeited it through inaction, that decision to move is what transforms lives. Because fear may never fully disappear, but when you make action your habit, fear never controls you again. All the internal work you do understanding fear, gaining knowledge, shifting paradigms, focusing on goals, and taking action is incredibly powerful. But there's one more layer that either strengthens or weakens all of it: your environment. If you want to truly eliminate fear from your life, you have to be intentional about what and who you surround yourself with. Your environment is more than just your physical space. It's the people you talk to, the content you consume, the energy you allow into your mind every single day. And whether you realize it or not, your environment is either feeding your fear or feeding your faith. Think about this. How often have you felt excited about an idea, a dream, a goal, and then shared it with someone who instantly planted doubt in your mind? Maybe they said, "That's too risky," or "You should be more realistic," or "What if it doesn't work?" And suddenly your confidence shrinks, not because you didn't believe, but because you allowed someone else's fear to influence yours. That's the danger of a toxic or unsupportive environment. It reinforces fear. It pulls you back into the very paradigm you're trying to break free from. So if you're serious about living without fear, you have to protect your mental garden. You have to start removing the weeds, negative influences, fearful voices, destructive habits, and plant seeds that support your growth. Surround yourself with people who believe in possibility. People who challenge you to think bigger, who remind you of your strength when you forget it. People who speak the language of vision, not limitation. Your community has power. Just being around someone who operates with confidence and belief can inspire you to step up in your own life. And it's not just about people. It's about what you feed your mind with. Are you scrolling through fear-based news and drama all day, or are you watching content that lifts you, educates you, and reminds you of your potential? Are you listening to the voice of fear in your head, or to the mentors, books, and teachings that push you forward? Even your daily environment, the space where you work, rest, and create, can affect your emotional state. Is it chaotic and cluttered, or calm and focused? When your outer space reflects clarity, your inner space follows. This isn't about living in a bubble or ignoring reality. It's about choosing what reality you reinforce. You can't control every situation, but you can control your input. You can choose to build an environment where fear can't thrive, where love, belief, discipline, and vision become your norm. Because here's the truth, no one succeeds alone, and no one overcomes fear without support. So take inventory of your life. Who are you listening to? What are you exposing yourself to every day? What needs to be removed and what needs to be added to support the version of you who's fearless? People and energy around you either lift you up or pull you down. Choose wisely, because when you create an environment that supports your higher self, fear has no room left to grow.